They put everything to shame and only Siskel and Ebert to blame. Please welcome the Video Store Guy.
And welcome to the Santa Claus. It is the Video Store Guy. How we doing there, Tyler?
I'm doing great, Michael. Happy to be doing that Santa Claus staple. Santa Claus y dos staple of my childhood. Honestly, good sequel. Pretty good sequel.
I tear up sequels. I loved Santa Claus 2 for many reasons. But for the sake of the show, I'm bringing my box up to you. As you can see, Santa Claus 2. Scott Calvin has been humble Santa Claus for 8 years, but it might come to an end if he doesn't find his Mrs. Claus. Should I rent this or not? What's up?
I'm telling you, man, this movie has got a lot going for it. It's the same Santa Claus we know, but except we get to expand upon the world of Santa Claus. We get to spend a little bit more time in the North Pole. We get to see what his day-to-day life is now that he's, full-time Santa Claus. But, there's trouble in paradise. Charlie's on the naughty list. He's being a bad kid at school. He's acting out. Why? Because, his dad's Santa Claus and he can't tell anybody. And he's a little bit older and, kids make fun, teenagers make fun of each other. So also he's got another problem. He got to get married. Otherwise he's going to lose all his Santa powers. And he's got 3 weeks to do it. I don't know. What do you think?
So it's got a Mr. Tim Allen, my favorite. And I'm gonna leave her for last because she's my favorite.
Okay.
Eric Lloyd, Aisha Tyler, she's a fan favorite. Kevin Pollak, Michael Dorn, Peter Boyle, who ironically in this story is a completely different character than it was in Santa Claus 1. Of course, we got Judge.
They have the same agent.
We got Art LaFleur. He's been in pretty much everything. He's the Tooth Fairy and a Lillian Mummy, just because she is hotter than the sun. And Elizabeth Mitchell. If everyone who are Lost fans are probably fans of Elizabeth Mitchell, she gave my total overall rating an extra 0.5 because she is great. I gave the score 8.5 at 10. Of course, it has the Elizabeth Mitchell effect. It gave the 8.5. IMDb gave it 5.7. Metascore is a 48, and Rotten Tomatoes a 56%.
A 10. A 10.
That's right.
It's cleaned up, man. I love it.
I gotta tell you. This is it for me. This is it right here. But that's because she plays the principal. She's the principal.
Absolutely.
And how I want to know, just aside from the movie really quick, I want to know how a woman, obviously beautiful, smart as her, the character she plays, she doesn't have cats. She's obviously not a crazy lady. She's just a little bit disgruntled because Santa didn't bring her what she wanted when she was like 12. Hey, this woman doesn't exist. This is fantasy, Disney. How dare you? How dare you setting the standard for me when I was a little kid? Now I'm grumpy because you set the standard for me when I was a kid.
Absolutely. One of my favorite quotes of this is at the very beginning, Santa Claus, he's doing his thing. He's coming, and one of the elves, Abby, she's going over the Christmas list. She says, "Hey, I have bad news, Santa." "Oh, what's that, Abby? What's going on now?" "Charlie, he made the naughty list." "Sheen? I thought we got him cleaned up."
I know, it's the best.
Charlie.
Because when was this made? This is what, 97?
Nope, this one's 2002.
Oh, 2. They went from 94 to 2002.
Yep,
holy moly.
Correct. 2002, sir.
They didn't even start production until 2000. Goodness gracious.
And the money line, I was checking out the money line on this. So they had a budget of $65 million. Opening weekend made $30 million. Grossed in the U.S. $139 million.
Yep.
Worldwide $172 million.
The 5th highest grossing holiday movie.
Gotta love it. And
so what are the ones above it? It's Oh, that I don't know. I don't have that list in front of me. I thought that's the soundtrack. I'm like, pfft, ridiculous.
I missed the name. I missed the name. Bernard David Krumholtz.
Always look at it twice.
Yep.
Always look at it twice when you're reading his name. Because damn it.
Yep. Yep.
Not used to it. It's not. I'm not used to that. It's a very New York name.
But he was a key part in this movie also. A key part in this movie being so good. It really was. It was a top. And most outside of Star Wars and what's it called, Godfather, sequels are horrible. They're absolutely, they're dumpster fires. People are trying to make money off of a name, and movies are it's just bad. This is a gem in the rough.
I would say as far as structure, the plot is slightly zany because the device of the whole point of these movies is there's a clause with an E, the Santa Claus, where some sort of legal loophole needs to be fulfilled. Okay. So that's the backbone of all three of these movies. And in order to come up with it has to have drama and stakes. Okay. Well, having to get married in like a month is difficult. I get it. That's actually a good one, but it also goes back to what we were talking about, the realism, the actual foundation of the story is that it's a family drama playing out. So now the family is more reconciled, but problems evolve. Kids start acting out. You have trouble in school. I mean, it could be an allegory for, kids that are wayward, maybe getting into drugs, things like that. But also, how to move on in your relationship with a relationship after being divorced. Like that's a big deal. Like, well, what do you do? Are you just going to be a workaholic like you were before? Yes, you might have reconciled and your family might accept where you're at in your life. But as you grow and you move, you've got to make changes. And I think that's what the core of the story is about here.
My favorite part when Scott Calvin is with Elizabeth Mitchell, what's her real name? What's her name?
Principal
Carol. Principal Carol. And so they're at the Christmas party, and it's when they really start connecting. And and
that's a good, not a bad party.
Yeah, it's just horrible. It's one of those parties that it is so horrible it will never be forgotten. And he's like, yes, I got to do something. And I think it's the part where she kind of falls in love with him, and he gets all the gifts, hands all the gifts out to all the teachers of all the stuff that they always wanted, the perfect Santa Claus metaphor throughout that part. And it's the part where you can see it in her eye that she falls in love with Scott Calvin. And then they go on the sleigh ride.
Oh yeah.
Night of the night. And he leaves the whole entire thing like, yeah, I'm Santa Claus. And she's like, get out of here. And
she confided in him about her experience with Santa Claus and kind of the season and why she always gets down this time of year. She thinks that he's manipulating her when in fact, there's always a fine line, especially in romantic comedy kind of context. Like, is this stalking? Is this appropriate? It's like, everybody wants to try to draw those lines nowadays, but you could tell it was innocent. He's trying to play the best hand that he can. And in general, I think the joke that you're referring to, is the best. He's like, this party's not so bad. Look, that guy moved from this to this.
Yeah.
I didn't want to pass that up, but I will say that, that the relationship part of this it does seem slightly rushed, even though they do give it some time to breathe. They have more interactions as parent teacher than just like, all of a sudden, he's hot. But also, I think another tricky thing they did story wise is having him lose his powers. The desanctification process has begun. He starts losing his beard. He starts getting thin. He's not, but they give him, he gets like a little bit of a magic reservoir in the form of watch, right? And that's what he's only allowed to have a little bit of his Christmas powers, even though he's losing them. And he uses them on the sleigh, on bringing the presents to the people at the party, so to show his true colors to her. But also I think the tricky part about that is it allows her to see him not as Santa, right? fall in love with the man, not the myth, right? So she's falling in love with like basically Tim Allen, not Fat Santa Claus. And I think that's why it's almost like there's a Shrek element to it where when he turns back into Santa Claus, she's like totally cool with it because she knows what's underneath, right?
Totally.
Did I just break that down too far for a Disney Christmas movie?
It's perfect. Perfect. Another one of my favorite quotes, Lily, the half daughter or the half
Oh
sister.
yeah, the niece. Basically like the niece, right?
Yeah. And she says, are you Santa Claus? He's like, what are you talking about? Why would you say that? And she's like, well, you have reindeer. He's like, everyone has reindeer. She goes, oh yeah, name 5. And he's like,
okay,
name 5.
You got me there, kid.
Can't argue with that. That was pretty good.
I mean, there's just there's a lot to like here. I think I already went over my gripes with it being like, what does the movie clock in at? Like 93 minutes, something like that. I think that for especially being a Disney production, they could have justified making this a little bit longer.
144 minutes.
Oh, okay, so it was. But well, man, it felt so much shorter than that.
It does fly by. I think
so. The pacing's good, but there. I mean, maybe my critique is incorrect because I didn't look at the. Maybe that means that they should have let some scenes breathe and maybe cut back on some of the North Pole stuff. I mean, even though it does expand the universe, it builds on existing. It doesn't go backwards; it goes forwards. Mm-hmm. So overall, as a sequel, just great.
Absolutely. One final part in the critique. When he's dating, he dates. I forget who it is.
It's Molly. It's Molly Shannon.
Yeah. He's dating her. They're at dinner, and she's just over the top.
She loves Santa Claus, right?
Yeah.
She's like a stalker.
Oh man, that was.
She's the best. She always plays a good cringy character. Mm-hmm. Like she's always good to make it awkward. So Terp, go ahead and bring up my feed really quick.
Yes. Sir.
And then and that way we can go ahead and talk about final thoughts. Got it up there?
Yep, she's up there.
All right. Let's talk final thoughts. What do you think?
I love this movie, and it was the perfect of of all the Christmas stuff. It didn't slam too much of one thing into you. It had really good twists. It had the feel good moments. The kind of stuff that kind of makes you hold back the emotion. It is Bernard is magic. Once again,
I love him.
And everyone just played very well together. I really enjoy the Mother Nature and the Tooth Fairy and then a whole aspect. So it really was. It's worth it. And I honestly think this is close to being better than the first one.
I agree. Oh, I'm glad you brought up some other things because that's so great. So my overall last final thoughts. You can go ahead and take me off there.
You're good.
Cool. My final thoughts is one, you reminded me of something. The entire B plot of this movie is that there is a Santa clone that takes his place while he's out trying to find his wife.
How did we not cover that?
I don't know, because we're actually like into it. We're just involved in the what I think is the best part of the movie. Now it's still played by Tim Allen and allows him to be kind of like, he turns into kind of like a South American dictator because he's just focused on the rules. He's like naughty and nice, gotta give everybody coal. How. And he's like, it's sort of this ridiculous prosthetic. It looks great. He just wants to give coal to all the kids because this is another thing I think story wise, it allows to explain how naughty and nice kids, are they really ever nice until a certain age? Yeah, probably not. There's nuance there. So it's like, it explains to the kids that even though they can do bad stuff, you can still be forgiven. And Santa knows that. He knows you're trying, right? So it's another really good, wholesome message underneath. And they get to have a nice little action sequence. And, regular Tim Allen has to take down Robo Santa. And you talked about the council, my absolute favorite cameo, apart from Peter Boyle, that was hilarious, is the Sandman, played by the incomparable Michael Dorn of Star Trek fame, Lieutenant Worf from Deep Space Nine, from Next Generation. I am not a merry man. I was like, yes. Very few people can recognize him without his makeup. I met him several times when I was a kid. I used to go to Star Trek conventions. I love it. I love it so much. It's just pitch perfect casting. And yeah, the B plot. That's why when you said 144 minutes, I'm like, can't be that long. Like, oh yeah, there's a whole nother part of this movie that we're totally forgetting about. And the elves questioning whether or not he's Santa, and Bernard doing his whole like, I think he looks even better. Like, dude, and you got to remind me here. What was the reason that Bernard decided to like disappear? What did he end up doing in the context of the story? He like disappears. He like into the Force or whatever.
Are you talking about in 2 or overall in the series?
It both. Like, he does the disappearing act in this one, right? Because in the third one, the other kid it becomes head elf, right?
Correct. Neil comes
Neil
comes in, he's Neil. So he leaves to get married, right? So and then he married, and I'm not going to ruin that one for that.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So I'm in the right. I thought I had forgotten, but I was like, I'm not sure. But, so he basically does an Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he kind of just goes into the Force.
Yep. They bring in the clones because Santa's working too hard, and he's being pulled too many directions. And then they're like, hey, you have to get married. And he's like, it's the Santa Claus, and he's like, what? And he's like, no, it's the Mrs. Claus, and he's like, how am I going to get married, date, and do all this stuff for Christmas? And the kid, he's not Lester. Oh man, I'm going to look it up. His name is Spencer Brenson. He's Curtis.
Yeah, Curtis. There we go.
And he's like, Curtis is like, he's always freaking out at Santa Claus, and he's like, I can't do everything. You gotta do something. He's like, I have an idea. And they make clones, and then the clone, takes over, and he makes clones of clones, and that's when they're like, we got to go get Santa when he's trying to date, and then they put it all together at the end, and it's perfect. That's what makes it perfect. And you're exactly right, man. You nailed it. That.
Wait a second. Curtis is what? Alex Breslin?
Yeah, Spencer Breslin.
Spencer, excuse me. His sister is Abigail Breslin, and she actually has a cameo in the third movie. She's from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and Zombieland.
There we go.
Hey, we're learning new stuff today. I was like, that name sounds familiar.
I love Zombieland. All right, take us home, man.
All right, if we're gonna take this home, there's only one way to do it. Guys, this movie, like we've said 100 times, it's near perfect. 8.5. Almost, you know what? Maybe a 9. Maybe we can make it a 9 for one reason only.
That's natural.
She's the perfect Mrs. Claus, and also Lost, and also everything else.
Everything.
It's great to watch with your kids. You can't go wrong. I mean, there is some adult humor, like in the first one, but that's like Tim Allen's kind of deal. It's always a wink and a nod to the camera. It like I said, it adds to the lore without going backwards. It doesn't reinvent the wheel. You get to see more of the world, and it kind of adds a new aspect. You get to learn. It's more world building, and that's going to lead us into the third one, which, of course, there's more zany hijinks and more, but overall it's about family. It's about how families come together, how they interact with each other, and also magic and Santa Claus and, love and belief and all that good stuff. So if I could ask you to do one thing, like, subscribe, share this video, comment in the comments below, share it with one normie friend if you could, so we can grow the channel.
Amen. Thanks, guys.
Merry Christmas.